I'm reading from the book Path to Happiness, and we're focusing today on the idea of exchange. And this is one of the keywords for the concept of exploration, developing a further expansion of your life. Whenever two living beings meet, there is an exchange of some kind. Living is exchange. Between people, this interactivity is a complex affair, having many components on all planes of body, mind, and feelings. Even on the basic animal level, without any acknowledgement required, we influence and are influenced by those in physical proximity to us. Because of our breathing, chemical releases, a tendency to match body language, and so on. Also, without much awareness of it, we are subject to moderation of the atmosphere of feelings that arises naturally when two people are near each other. Exchange is central and an inevitable condition of life. As humanity arose out of its roots in the animal kingdom, so too did trade. The exchange of goods and services is particularly emblematic of our species. In the harsh reality of life, swapping surpluses makes good sense, whether your trading partner is a friend or foe. Food, skills, and knowledge are difficult to acquire and essential for survival and comfort. Bringing light of consciousness to this phenomenon, we notice that there is an inherent sense within us that fair exchange is good, and that in the absence of this, sooner or later we will feel an offended sense of injustice and the need for recompense, or at least termination of mutual dealings. The origins of this feeling lie in the sense that personal and tribal survival might well depend upon the fairness of any exchange. So even in the modern era, any continuing imbalances in exchange will likely trigger deeply unconscious survival-type emotions. This observation can be extended to the fullness and the depth of human interaction, where what is exchanged is nothing more than attention. Though it might seem inconsequential and insubstantial, our feelings tell us of a hidden truth that people really do not like to continue to give significantly more attention than they receive, and sooner or later will do something to rectify the imbalance. The currencies of exchange are varied and usually interchangeable. Anything considered of value can be bartered, overtly or covertly: food, sex, security, attention, services, prestige, position, permission. These are all used as currency. What is central and incontrovertible is that to maintain harmony, both parties must feel a sense of mutuality of benefit, which over time tends towards a perceived fairness. Whenever we are with another person, we are advised, therefore, to bring a high degree of consideration to find balance in the exchange that is occurring. If we are engaged in trading, then it is actually better for us to ensure that the trade is fair. We may feel titillation if we pull off a successful cheat, but really, is such short-term pleasure in the stolen fruit worth the greater cost? Cheats are always going to be cheated themselves one day, because that is the world that they choose to inhabit. Honest people recognize each other and gravitate together because the atmosphere of integrity is a palpable reality for them. Which world is preferable for you? Every meaningful interaction has fair exchange as its foundation. If we betray the implied contract, then disruption is fast approaching. A husband who no longer shows concern for his wife's feelings will eventually become disappointed with their lovemaking. A friend who talks and talks and talks should not expect to be tolerated indefinitely, however patient and compassionate the listener may be. Both husband and windbag have stepped over the implied line of trust. That exchanges must be reasonably balanced. On the other hand, if we make a point of always being fair, we will be trusted more, not only by those who know us, but also by other honest people, since they recognize our integrity. Being trusted, trustworthy, and trusting are all interconnected conditions of being, and self-evidently a good and wholesome life reward for a constancy of fair exchange. A metaphor can be drawn that likens the conscious avoidance of unfair exchange in trade to the realm of exchange of ideas. There are some people who are convinced that their own wisdom is supreme, that they have nothing to learn. An open-minded person does not fall into this trap. What actually occurs when knowledge is communicated is reciprocal. In the more obvious example, everyone has some experiences and understandings that we do not, and from which we can benefit. To believe otherwise is just silly. However, there is also a more obscure aspect to consider, that a teacher needs a student in order even to be a teacher. True knowledge is seemingly passed from the more assertive to the more passive, yet it only arises because of the interaction itself. So how can we say which party has contributed more? The question is moot. The communication of ideas is an exchange of wisdom and can only exist when both sides of the equation are committed to and in harmony with the exchange. Teaching and learning arise together, each depending upon the other. Also, a teacher who is not open to further learning cannot inspire students, but can only inform them. How could someone with a closed mind ever open the mind of another? It is our curiosity-driven appetite for further understanding that awakens the inspired attention of another. Consider a situation in which you have gained an unfair advantage. Perhaps a shopkeeper has accidentally undercharged you or given you too much change. What do? The temptation is strong to hide the error, and if this seduces you, it is likely to be followed by an unpleasant feeling of shame. It could be worse in the case that you have lost sight of your finer feelings and perhaps even celebrate a sense of having beaten down another person in a contest. Behavior similar to the crowing of a cock. It could be worse still, and you decide to return the money with a holier-than-thou disposition. Moralizing self-righteousness is very ugly, and so often is one of the earlier indicators of imminent war. Another approach is to understand that keeping the money is foolish. It is evidence of poverty consciousness and leads to further poverty. By cheating, we may well end up with more money, but it will never be enough. Poverty has little to do with how much money we have, but is a feeling, the feeling of lack. Returning the money is an administrative question. We are helping to rectify a simple error, fully trusting that treating people fairly is the normal behavior of a mature adult. Trusting in life is what makes life trustworthy. The simplest and most commonplace type of exchange is in day-to-day ordinary conversations. Individually, they may lack intensity, drama, and even importance, but as a collection, these events comprise the bulk of our social life, therefore our society, and our experience of ourselves as part of the community. In so many ways, these describe and define who we are and what is shaping our life circumstances. We do well to attend to them with great care. It is likely that we try to fit in by understanding any extreme positions we may hold. We will probably adopt the conventional attitudes and practices associated with our particular subset of society. Such an approach secures our place as part of it all. However, it is no less important to employ these conversations to establish the differences between us and the rest, taking a stance against those who would deny our set, and indeed our individuality. The resultant friction must not be seen as a bad thing, and should not be avoided entirely. Diplomacy and other social skills can be found in order to minimize quarrels, but the complete avoidance of such conflict is not in our best interest. Inevitably, this would lead to an inauthentic self-expression of the eventual denial of who we really are. By its very nature, exchange includes friction, because it is in essence a vigorous pushing and pulling without final resolution. Were it not so, society would lose its dynamism, and we our personality and joy. The wazifa pair for exchange has to do with dealing with what we need to deal with in life. So we begin with wakil. And this carries the idea of there always being sufficient force, life force, energy and resources to come to terms with whatever presents itself. And we can deal with that and then come back to ourselves. Deal with challenges, come back to self. So this sense of coping and returning full circle to a position of being nurtured and guarded and protected from that which might disturb us. So wakil carries with it the idea of a trustee, a guardian, a protector, in this sense of coming to a point where you have within yourself, of course, that which is necessary to deal with all things that you have to experience. Now, in particular, razak deals with nourishment, sustenance, that aspect of what we need, which is routine and predictable and everyday nurture. So that's one of the challenges that we have to deal with in life, this ability to sustain ourselves. And so razak carries that meanings of sustenance, divine sustenance. So we put them together and we have this sense of how we are organizing our exchanges in life. An exchange of energy means that we've got a little bit more of this that we can spare, and we need something from someone else that we haven't got. So that basically is the principle of wakil, razak, dealing with needy situations by finding the resources to do that. Ya wakil, ya razak. 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 Amen.